His hand closed around the doorknob. Ring, ring, ring. The shrill ring of his phone cut through the tension. It was his boss. Dad answered. And his face paled. What? The main server crashed. Okay. I'm on my way. He hung up and grabbed his coat in a panic. Honey, it's an emergency at work. I have to go now. I might not be back for a few days. Wait, what about Otter? Mom started to say, but he was already out the door. I was stunned. So close. Just 1 second. If that call had come 1 second later, I would have been found. Maybe then my body wouldn't have to keep rotting here. That afternoon, Mom took Mina shopping. My corpse was left alone in the house. They returned that evening, their arms full of shopping bags, filled with expensive seafood and gifts. The moment they walked in, the smell hit them like a physical blow. Mom gagged, covering her nose. Audrey, are you trying to turn this house into a garbage dump? She wouldn't even open the door to yell at me, as if a single glance into my room would contaminate her. She found a roll of heavy-duty duct tape, knelt down and viciously sealed the crack at the bottom of my door. If you love the stench so much, you can suffocate in it, just don't let it bother the rest of us. After applying the last strip, Mom stood and dusted off her hands, satisfied air, peace and quiet. She went to the kitchen to steam the lobster. I looked at the sealed door, and the last flicker of hope in my soul was extinguished, along with the flow of air. I finally understood in my mother's heart. My life or death was less important than a seafood dinner. She would rather seal me away than open the door to see if I was dead inside. You win, Mom. I'll never bother you again. For on the morning of the third day, the warm winter sun filled the living room, but it couldn't chase away the gloom that had settled over our home. The central heating was cranked up to a sweltering 26 degrees. The duct tape was no longer enough. A cloying, greasy stench of decay now permeated the entire house. Mom was arranging a bouquet of fresh flowers, but no matter how strong their perfume, the smell of my rotting body overpowered it. Snip. She violently decapitated a rose. A thorn, pricking her finger. She had reached her limit. In her mind, I wasn't bathing. I was using my room as a toilet, maybe even hiding dead rats in there, all to disgust her, to defy her authority. Audrey, you've really crossed the line this time. Mom stormed into the kitchen, grabbed a rolling pin, and marched toward my room, her face a mask of fury. I'm going to beat the filth out of you today. It's clear the shocks aren't working anymore. Need to learn a lesson. You can feel on your skin. I floated in front of her, looking at her contorted face, waving my hands frantically to stop her. Don't go in, Mom. Please don't. I'm hideous. I've started to rot. You'll be scared. Even though she didn't love me, I didn't want her to see me in such a horrific state. But she passed right through my soul and ripped the tape from the door frame. Screech sound of the tearing tape was deafening. She jammed the spare key into the lock and twisted. Bang! The door flew open with violent force. A thick, almost tangible wave of putrefaction rolled out, as if from Pandora's box. Mom staggered back, bending over and dry heaving. Ugh, Audrey, what in God's name have you done? She looked up and saw me, still in the same position I'd been in 3 days ago, slumped over my desk, my back to her, perfectly still. To her, this was an act of silent defiance, the ultimate arrogance. Are you deaf? I'm talking to you. Are you still playing dead? Blinded by rage, she charged forward, raising the rolling pin high above her head. But she didn't strike immediately. She wanted to haul me up first to see the look on my stubborn face. Get up. Her hand shot out and grabbed the collar of my pajamas, her fingers closing around the back of my neck. And then she froze. The moment her skin made contact with mine, time seemed to stop through the thin fabric of my pajamas. Her fingers didn't feel the warmth of living skin, or the softness of flesh. What she felt was a piece of meat as cold and hard as a block of ice. It was a deathly cold, a cold that seeped into her bones. Cold, utterly devoid of life. Huh. Mom faltered for a second, but her momentum carried her forward. She yanked with all her might, and my body was pulled backward. The chair tipped over with me. Crash. The chair slammed onto the floor with a deafening bang. My body, stiff as a statue, fell with it, and my face at last was revealed. My mother called me a liar from birth, all because of her belief in scientific parenting. From the day my twin sister Mina and I were born, she fastened honesty bracelets to our wrists. Lie. And it flashed red, triggering an electric shock from Mom's remote. Mina's bracelet always stayed green, even when she tore Mom's dress and blamed the cat. It glowed gently. But me. If I whispered, Mom, I'm hungry, it turned furious red and pain shot through my arm. At first I argued. Mom said, the machine doesn't lie. The pain will help you remember. After thousands of shocks, I believed it. I was born a liar. On New Year's Eve, as Mom prepared to take Mina to see fireworks, searing pain tore through my stomach. I collapsed, gasping, "Mom, my stomach, it hurts so much.
Help me."
But my bracelet flashed frantic red. Mom looked down at me, my hair wet with cold sweat, and turned the remote to its highest setting. "You'd fake being sick just to see the fireworks,"
she said.
disappointed. "You never learn." She walked out with Mina, the door slamming behind them. I thought Mom must be right. The bracelet is red, so I can't really be in pain. I must be lying for attention.
"I'm sorry, Mum."
Next time I'll try to be honest. It hurts. My body convulsed with pain, my fingernails scratching white lines into the hardwood floor. The doorknob turned. Spark of hope ignited in my chest. Mom was back. She's a doctor. She must have realized something was wrong. She came back to save me. "Are you done with your tantrum? The fireworks are about to start and Mina's getting impatient, Mom," I whispered, my voice barely audible, stretching a trembling hand toward the door. "It really hurts. It feels like my insides are tearing apart." She glanced at the frantic red light on my wrist. She knelt, her fingers digging into my chin, forcing my head up. Her voice was laced with fury. "Audrey, when are you going to stop this act? You're pathologically incapable of telling the truth. You can stay in here and think about what you've done." Dad called from the entryway. "Honey, let's go. The show's starting. If Audrey doesn't want to come, she doesn't have to. Should we leave her some dinner?" Mom stood up, brushing her hands together as if she'd touched something filthy. "Leave her dinner? For what? There's a whole stash of junk food in her closet. She bought it with the money she stole last week. She won't starve. Lock the door. She can come out when that bracelet turns green." But Dad hesitated. "But what?" "Spare the rod. Spoil the child. Look at Mina, so honest. Her bracelet is always green. Audrey is rotten to the core. She needs to be corrected." But my closet was empty. Mina was the one who took the money. Mina was the one who ate the snacks. She had just stood there, her bracelet glowing a soft, innocent green, and said it wasn't me. And Mom believed her when I tried to say I didn't take it either. The red light flared, and the electricity came. I watched Mom turn to leave. Nina peeked through the crack in the door and made a face at me.
"Bye."
"Bye, Audrey. We're off to see the pretty fireworks." Her bracelet, a study, verdant green. It was beautiful. Thump. The door slammed shut. I heard the deadbolt slide into place. The house fell silent. It was just me and the saw blade working its way through my gut. It hurts so much. But Mom was right. The machine doesn't lie. The bracelet is red, so I must be lying. I'm not in pain. I'm really, truly not in pain. Tears streamed down my face as I tried to hypnotize myself. I don't know how long passed, but the pain actually seemed to fade. With the last ounce of my strength, I crawled toward my desk. I had to write an apology. That was the rule. Whenever the red light came on, I had to write, "I am a liar" 500 times. If I finished, maybe Mom would forgive me. Maybe she'd take me to the hospital. My hand shook as I opened the crumpled, worn-out notebook. It was already filled page after page with my previous apologies. Usually I wrote, "I'm sorry. I was wrong. I won't lie anymore." But this time I wanted to write the truth. My vision blurred. Crying, I used the last of my energy to scrawl, "Mom, I really do love you. It hurts so much. Why won't you just believe me? Please, Mom, just believe me this one time." As I finished the last word, the agony in my stomach suddenly vanished. In its place was a lightness I'd never felt before. My body felt weightless. I was floating. I looked down and saw myself slumped over the desk, one arm hanging limply in the air, motionless. Bracelet on my wrist was still flashing a frantic, desperate red. So I was dead. But I still hadn't learned how to be an honest girl.
"I'm sorry, Mum."
I was awakened by the sound of laughter. It was Mom, Dad, and Mina. The fireworks were beautiful tonight, especially that one shaped like a smiley face, just as cute as my Mina. Mom's voice held a tenderness I had never heard directed at me. I floated in midair, watching as the front door opened. Even as a spirit, my first instinct was to drift toward them, to help them with their slippers, as I always did. It was a survival instinct, a deeply ingrained need to please Mom. I opened my arms, wanting to hug the woman who brought the winter chill in with her. "I'm not in pain anymore. I'll be good from now on. Please don't be mad." But my hands passed right through her body like smoke. Mom shivered, frowning. "Why is it so chilly in here? Is the heat off?" Here is the continuation of the story, picking up exactly where the scene left off. My body hit the floor with a heavy, wooden thud, stiff as a mannequin. The impact dislodged my hair from my face, revealing features that were no longer mine. My skin was a mottled canvas of gray and green, my lips pulled back in a dry, silent scream. My eyes were wide open, clouded with a milky film, staring blindly at the ceiling fan. And on my wrist, the bracelet continued its work.
Flash, 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 red.
It was screaming into the silence. Liar, liar, liar. Mom stood frozen, her arm still outstretched from where she had yanked me. The rolling pin slipped from her other hand, clattering against the hardwood. The noise was sharp, violent, but it didn't wake me. Get up, she whispered. Her voice trembled, not with fear, but with a desperate, fractured denial. Audrey, get up. Stop holding your breath. I know you're holding your breath. She dropped to her knees, ignoring the smell that had made her gag moments ago. She grabbed my shoulders and shook me. My entire body moved as one solid unit, a grim seesaw of bone and hardened muscle. My head didn't roll. My arms didn't flop. I was a statue carved from ice and regret. Audrey, she screamed at this time, a raw, tearing sound. Dad appeared in the doorway, his face flushed from the heat of the house, holding a plate of sliced fruit. Evelyn, what is the plate shattered on the floor. I watched from above, floating near the ceiling where the heat gathered. I saw the moment my father's soul broke. He didn't ask questions.
He didn't yell.
He looked at the duct tape hanging in strips from the doorframe, then at the purple discoloration of my legs, and finally at the red light pulsing on my dead wrist. He made a sound like a wounded animal, a low, guttural keen, and scrambled across the floor on his hands and knees. He shoved Mom aside, actually shoved her, sending her toppling into the nightstand, and gathered my rigid body into his arms. She's cold, he sobbed, rocking back and forth. Evie, she's hard. She's so cold. She's faking. Mom shrieked, scrambling back up, her eyes wide and manic. She pointed a trembling finger at the bracelet.
Look.
Look at the light. It's red. The machine says she's lying. She's lying about being dead. Dad stopped rocking. He looked at the bracelet. He looked at my unblinking, milky eyes. She has no pulse, Evelyn. Dad roared, the sound exploding from his chest. She's rotting. Look at her. She's been dead for days. But the machine, Mom whispered, her back hitting the wall. She looked at the remote in her pocket, then at the bracelet. The machine doesn't lie. It's scientific. It detects physiological arousal. Deceit. She is a corpse, Dad wailed, burying his face in my stained pajamas. Corpses don't lie. I felt a strange tugging sensation, like a hook behind my navel. I wanted to comfort Dad, but the sorrow in the room was toxic, thick and choking. Then, a shadow moved in the hallway.
Mina.
My twin sister stood just outside the door, peeking around the frame. She was wearing her new velvet dress, the one Mom bought her for the new year. Her face wasn't twisted in horror or grief. It was pale, yes, but her eyes were darting around, calculating. She looked at my body. Then, her gaze locked onto the bracelet flashing red. A flicker of genuine confusion crossed her face, followed immediately by terrified relief. She raised her own wrist. Her bracelet was dark. She tapped it against her hip, and it glowed a soft, steady green. I didn't do it, the green light seemed to say. I am good. Mom. Mina's voice was small, practiced perfection. Is Audrey playing a game again? Dad turned his head, his eyes bloodshot and wild. He looked at Mina, then back at Mom. Call 911, he rasped. No, Mom said, instinctively smoothing her hair. We can't, the neighbors might practice. Call them. Dad screamed, grabbing the phone from the desk, the same phone that had summoned him to work 3 days ago, and threw it at her. The next few hours were a blur of flashing lights, blue and red, mixing with the relentless red strobing on my wrist. Paramedics arrived. They didn't rush. There was no need. One of them, a young man with kind eyes, gently tried to unclasp the bracelet to check for a pulse he knew wasn't there. He frowned. Ma'am, I can't get this off. It's locked. It requires a magnetic key, Mom said. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall. She had retreated into her doctor persona. Clinical. Detached. I have the key. Unlock it, please, the paramedic said, his voice hard. Mom walked over. Her hands were shaking so badly she couldn't align the magnet. The paramedic took the key from her and clicked the mechanism open. The bracelet fell away. The red light finally died. The silence that followed was louder than the screaming had been. Time of death is estimated at quite some time ago, the paramedic muttered to his partner. Rigor is fully established. Decomposition is advanced. This isn't a fresh kill. A police officer, a heavy-set woman named Detective Miller, stepped into the room. The smell of seafood and rot was still heavy in the air. She looked at the duct tape residue on the door frame. She looked at the towel jammed under the crack. Who sealed this room? Detective Miller asked. I did, Mom said. To keep the smell in. She was refusing to bathe. It was an act of rebellion. Detective Miller looked at my body, then back at Mom. Her expression went very flat. You sealed a child in a room because she smelled like decay? I thought she was hiding garbage, Mom stammered. She's a liar. She always lies. The bracelet. The bracelet was flashing red on a cadaver, Dr. Sterling, Miller said coldly. Unless you're suggesting ghosts can lie, I'd say your machine is broken. Mom's head snapped up. It's not broken. It's 99.9% accurate. I calibrated it myself. Then why was it red? Dad asked. He was sitting on the floor, holding the bracelet. Why was it shocking her? He turned the metal band over. The contact points, meant to deliver the electric shocks, were blackened. Look, Dad whispered. He held it up. On the underside of the bracelet, where it touched the skin, the metal had burned into my flesh. But there was something else. A small, thin strip of clear tape had been jammed over the biosensor, the part that read the heartbeat and sweat levels. What is that? Mom stepped closer. Tape, Detective Miller said, pulling out an evidence bag. She took the bracelet from Dad. Someone taped over the sensors. If the sensor can't get a reading, what does it do? It interprets it as resistance, Mom whispered, her face draining of all color. It defaults to the highest punishment setting to force compliance. To force the child to stop blocking the signal. So, the detective said, her voice like grinding stones. Because of a piece of tape, this machine was electrocuting her continuously? For how long? I don't know, Mom breathed. And she was dying, Dad said, his voice hollow. She was dying of a burst appendix, and every time she screamed in pain, the machine shocked her because it thought she was resisting. I looked at Mina. She was standing in the hallway, half hidden by the doorframe. She was chewing her fingernail. She knew. I remembered a week ago. Mina had asked to try on my bracelet just to see. I let her. She had fiddled with it for 10 minutes before giving it back.
It's too tight, she had said.
I put a little tape on the sharp part, so it wouldn't scratch you. She hadn't taped the sharp part. She had taped the sensor. She didn't know it would kill me. She just wanted me to get shocked. She wanted me to be the bad one so she could be the good one. She wanted the red light to shine so her green light would look brighter. The autopsy confirmed it. Acute peritonitis caused by a ruptured appendix. I had died in agony, likely on New Year's Eve, while fireworks exploded outside my window. The medical examiner noted the burn marks on my wrist, deep enough to expose the tendon. I watched the funeral from the branches of the oak tree in the cemetery. It was a closed casket, of course. Mom stood there, looking smaller than I had ever seen her. She wasn't crying. She was staring at the ground, muttering to herself. Dad wouldn't stand next to her. He stood with his parents, sobbing openly. Mina stood between them, wearing black, clutching a teddy bear I had never seen her play with. She looked perfect. The grieving sister. Her bracelet was gone, taken into evidence, but she kept rubbing her wrist as if it were still there. I'm sorry, Audrey, whispered the wind. Or maybe it was me. I didn't move on. I couldn't. The injustice was a heavy anchor, chaining me to the earth. I followed them home.
The house was quiet now.
Dad had moved into the guest room. He barely spoke to Mom. He spent his nights drinking scotch and staring at my old drawings. Mom, however, was unraveling. She sat in her office, surrounded by schematics of the bracelets. It shouldn't have failed, she muttered, scribbling equations. The tape. Why didn't the failsafe engage? Why was the tape there? She paced the room. Mina wouldn't. She's the honest one. Her bracelet is always green. I drifted into the room. I concentrated hard. Being a ghost is about will. It's about emotion. I focused on the lamp on her desk.
Red.
I thought. Red like the pain. Red like the lie. The bulb flickered. It didn't burn out. It turned a deep, angry crimson. Mom froze. She looked at the lamp. Audrey, she whispered. I didn't answer. I focused on the schematics. I pushed a stack of papers off the desk. They fluttered to the floor, landing on top of Mina's school report card, the one Mom thought was perfect, but which Mina had forged. Mom stared at the papers. She bent down to pick them up and saw the report card. Straight A's, she muttered. But I focused again. I pressed my cold energy against the paper. The ink Mina had used to change the C to an it was different. Under the red light of the haunted lamp, the forgery became obvious. The texture was wrong. Mom frowned. She rubbed the grade. The cheap ink smeared. A lie, she whispered. She stood up and walked to Mina's room. It was 2 a.m. Mina was asleep, looking like an angel. Mom stood over her. For the first time, she looked at Mina not as a reflection of her own success, but as a suspect. She opened Mina's drawer, the one Mina always kept locked. I helped her. I slid the bolt of the lock from the inside. It took all my energy, and I felt my spirit dim, but the lock clicked open. Mom gasped.
How?
She pulled the drawer open. Inside wasn't just childhood trinkets. There were wrappers. The candy wrappers from the stash I was accused of stealing. There was the money missing from Dad's wallet. And there was a roll of clear Scotch tape. Mom picked up the tape. She held it up to the moonlight. A single, long hair was stuck to the side of the roll. A hair identical to mine or Mina's. But Mina had short hair. I had long hair.
Wait. No.
Mina had cut her hair after I died. Before that, we were identical. But then Mom saw it. At the bottom of the drawer, hidden under a diary. My spare bracelet key. The one that was supposed to be in Mom's safe. Mom fell to her knees. The realization hit her not with a bang, but with a slow, crushing weight. The machine hadn't lied. The machine had been sabotaged. And the honest child, the one whose bracelet was always green. If the machine works on stress, and Mina never feels stress when she lies, then Mina isn't honest. Mina is a psychopath. The confrontation happened the next morning at breakfast. The kitchen was cold. The heating had been turned off since the day they found me. Mina sat eating cereal, humming a tune. Mina, Mom said. Her voice was unrecognizable.
Dead.
Yes, Mommy? Did you put tape on Audrey's bracelet? Mina didn't flinch. She didn't pause. She chewed, swallowed, and smiled.
No, Mommy.
Why would I do that? If she had a bracelet on, it would have been green. She was perfectly calm. She believed her own narrative. I found the tape in your drawer, Mom said, placing the roll on the table. And the wrappers. And the key. Mina's eyes flickered to the tape. For a second, the mask slipped. A look of pure, venomous annoyance crossed her face. Not guilt. Annoyance. Like she had been caught in a minor inconvenience. Audrey put those there, Mina said. She stole my drawer key. Audrey is dead, Dad said from the doorway. He looked like a ghost himself. She's been dead for weeks, Mina. She couldn't have put them there. She did it before, Mina insisted, her voice rising to a whine. She's a liar. The machine said so. Why do you believe her over me? My light is green. I'm the good one. The machine only measures fear, Mom whispered. Audrey was always afraid. Afraid of me. Afraid of the pain. Mom looked at Mina. You're never afraid, are you, Mina? You don't feel anything. Mina slammed her spoon down. Milk splashed onto the table. I wish she died sooner.
Mina screamed.
The sudden violence of it made Dad flinch. She was so annoying.
Mom, I'm hungry.
Mom, it hurts. Shut up. Just shut up. Mina stood up, her face red. I put the tape on it so she'd get shocked. It was funny. She danced around like a little monkey. It wasn't supposed to kill her. She was just weak. She was a weak little liar. The silence in the kitchen was absolute. Mina realized what she had said. She clamped her hand over her mouth. She looked at Mom, expecting the remote, expecting the shock. But there were no bracelets anymore. Dad walked forward. He moved slowly. He took Mina by the shoulders. Go to your room, he said. His voice was terrifyingly calm. But Daddy. Go.
Mina ran.
Dad turned to Mom. You built that machine, he said. You raised them by it. You taught Mina that if the light is green, she can do no wrong. You created a monster. I know, Mom wept. I know. The legal fallout was swift. Mom was charged with child endangerment and involuntary manslaughter. Her medical license was stripped. The honesty bracelet became a national scandal, a symbol of abusive parenting. Mina was taken away. She was too young for prison, but she was sent to a high-security psychiatric facility for juveniles. The doctors there didn't use bracelets. They used therapy. They diagnosed her with conduct disorder and severe lack of empathy. Dad sold the house. He couldn't stay there. On the last day, before the movers came, he sat in my empty room. The duct tape marks were still on the doorframe. I believe you, Audrey, he said to the empty air. I'm sorry I was too weak to stop her. I believe you. I walked over to him. I placed my hand on his shoulder. He couldn't feel the cold anymore. He just shivered slightly and wiped a tear. Goodbye, Daddy, I whispered. I drifted down the hall to the living room. Mom was there, out on bail, packing the last box. She looked old. Her hair was gray. She picked up the prototype of the bracelet remote. She stared at it for a long time. Then, she smashed it against the fireplace hearth. Again, and again, until it was just plastic shards and twisted wire. She sat amidst the wreckage and wept. I loved you, she choked out. I just wanted you to be good. I'm so sorry, baby. I'm so sorry. I stood in front of her. I realized then that I didn't hate her. Hate requires energy, and I was tired. I just pitied her. She had sacrificed her daughter to a god of copper and wire, and it had eaten her alive in return. I looked at my wrist. In the spirit world, the bracelet was still there. It had been with me since I died. But as I looked at it, the red light stopped flashing. The metal band cracked. It crumbled into dust and drifted away, leaving my wrist bare and unblemished. The pain in my stomach was gone. The need to apologize was gone. I wasn't a liar. I never was. A warm light began to fill the room, not from the sun, but from somewhere else. Somewhere that didn't smell of decay or fear. I looked back one last time at the house. It was just a house. I let go. And I faded into the light, leaving the darkness to the living.